Hey, welcome to Tuesday Night Live as Let's Go There. Welcome to week 2. Last week was amazing. I was nervous. I was scared because it was my first time doing it. But I'm excited about tonight because it's going to be a good night. I have a good guest that will be coming. But I just wanted to share that if anyone out there is scared to try something new, never be scared, because you never know how many people you can impact by the gift that you have and by just trying new things. And so I just want to say thank you so far. If you haven't liked my channel, please smash the like button and also subscribe and send it to your friends. I think they'll really enjoy tonight's topic. Tonight, we're talking about mental health. We're talking about rejection. We're talking about barriers to education. And, I'm going to bring on my special guest that I known for a very long time. Actually, I've known him since I was 9 years old. And it's my beloved husband, Andrew Beresford. And now we will bring him in. Hey, babe. Welcome to my show. Let's go there. Yes, and we're going to have a good conversation. We're going to let people peek into some real conversations that we have regularly at home and even at the office sometimes. And because we like to keep it 100, right?
The way. That's the only way to be. That's the only way to be.
Yes, cannot wait. Kind of our stories a little bit that we met when we were 9, but then when we were 13, we went to the same campground. Our schools met up, and it's the first time I laid eyes on him. Wasn't interested at the time.
Not at all, fam. Not at all.
Not at all. But it was the first time that we were connected, and later on years in college, we met back again, and it's just been an amazing story. That's for another time, because our story is kind of crazy, and we'll share that maybe in the next couple episodes or next season. Mm-hmm. But just to get started, I just wanted to ask you a couple questions so people can get to know who you are.
For sure.
So, this or that, do you prefer spicy or sour food?
Well, I mean, in general, like if you ask me, I would pick sour over spicy, but it depends. Like generally I don't like spicy food, especially if I can't taste the food. I hate when stuff is so hot that you just can't taste it. But I would say, if I had to pick, I'd probably pick sour.
When you're like combing, or not combing, but taking a napkin on your mustache because it's like sweating.
Yeah, exactly.
There. Okay, so are you an early riser or a night owl?
Well, you live with me. Most definitely I'm a night owl. I will burn the candle, till there's nothing left, just to get work done. I'll sit up and I'll watch movies until I pass out. But I absolutely hate waking up in the morning.
Oh, I know. Okay, so would you prefer to have spaghetti or lasagna?
Personally, I would say I'm a lasagna type of guy. I prefer lasagna because, I just think with spaghetti, it's just a hassle, man. Always trying to figure stuff out, and it's always falling apart, and you're slurping and slurping, never can get to the end of it. So personally, I'm a lasagna man myself.
Okay, so would you prefer classical music or rock and roll?
Wow. I don't know. I think people would actually be shocked, but I love classical music. I would rather sit there and taking classical music. And I just love the intricacy. I love the beauty that is in, containing classical music. So I'd pick classical over rock and roll.
Oh, that's pretty good. I know recently you've been listening to that in the car. When I get in the car, it was on. I was pretty surprised by that. So that's good to know. And my last question for you, so people to get to know you, what's your favorite color?
Man, I know they say it's not a color, but I would say black. I love black. All black everything. I just love black. I like the way that it contrasts against things. And if I was to pick a color, I would say purple.
Purple.
Yeah, I would say purple if I had to pick an actual color. But aside from that, I would say black. I just love black.
Awesome. So just tell us a little bit of who you are, what you do, so we can get to know you just more.
Well, I like long walks on the beach, and no. Well, listen. I mean, I'm going to be, Lord willing, 37 years old this year. I've been saved, a child of God for just over 17 years, and I love God. Beyond God, I love you, babe. I love my wife more than anyone on the earth. I just want to say, of course, I'm so proud of you for doing this. I know what it is for you to step out and to do this. And if y'all haven't shared, if y'all haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so, because we're going there. But I love my wife. I love you. I love getting to do life with you. I love getting to serve the Lord with you. I love my family. So I'm a family man. I ride or die for my fam. Yeah. So I love Jesus. I love my wife. I love my kids. And I absolutely love music.
Mhm.
I love books. So I love reading. I love consuming information, especially books that have great stories, real life stories. Those are very inspiring to me. Yeah, that's kind of me.
That's
In a
kind of you in
nutshell.
a nutshell.
Yeah.
Night owl, read books, love music, and you
Mhm.
love your family, to sum it kind of up.
Yes, absolutely. I hope I do a good job of loving you,
Yeah,
babe.
you did an amazing job, actually. You are top level. I mean, yeah, you're amazing. I'll put it there. You're really, really good. But to start the conversation tonight about let's going there, I just want people to. I want you to share a little bit of your childhood, your education. Like, what was that experience like? I know your story a little bit because I've known you for I've known you for so long. But just your experience on rejection in education as a kid, your experience. Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, my in my household, education was important. It
Mhm.
was important. There was high priority on being educated. My dad is extremely educated. He holds several master's degrees, and he's also in ministry, and and so he values education. So does my mom. The thing I appreciate about my parents is that they didn't try to they didn't put like a high standard on us above us doing our best, and they
Mhm.
just really encouraged us. And that's kind of the approach that we take with our kids. But like they were just like, I just want to make sure you're doing your best. Like, so it wasn't like get this sort of a grade or do
Mhm.
this. They were just like, we just want to make sure you're doing your best, right? And so my scholastic journey, just kind of growing up in that sort of an environment, my parents didn't I didn't really experience difficulty in that area, but at school, through through various teachers, and also children. Like I had a difficult time sitting still. And so I had teachers. I also had a difficult time with organization. I realized later that it was because I was a creative, and so I liked things in a certain way that may not have been conventional. And so, like one of my teachers one day, she just came. She was like, "Andrew, your desk looks like when you were born." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
in other words, it was a mess.
Yeah.
And to me, when I looked at it, I didn't see a mess, right? I just
Mm.
saw it. I just had it organized the way I wanted it organized, the way I thought made
Mhm.
sense. But to her, just based on her understanding, it was a mess. It was out of order. So it was that. Then it was various other, children as well. I realized that would make fun of me because of kind of the way that I was. I was not conventional. I was different. I didn't really fit in a box. And although I have language for it now,
Mm.
I realized like that rejection really, the people didn't want to play with me, or they made fun of me, or I wasn't really accepted in certain circles. So that was a
So,
challenge.
did they make fun of your like physical appearance? Like, what are some of the things that they made fun of? Like, what was?
Well, yeah, like as I said, just the way I was. Also, growing up in a household, a West Indian household, there's no, as my mom would say, there's no sport mecking, right? Like so, in other words, no jokes are being made, right? So when it comes to leaving the house, you're leaving the house with your pants on your waist, and you know what I mean. And sometimes your hair is greased. Yo, if you grew up in a West Indian household, you know what I'm talking about. There's some serious grease in your hair. So like, I didn't really have all of the, like the trends. It was just
You were
cleanliness is
you
next to
weren't cool.
godliness.
You weren't a cool
I
kid.
wasn't cool. So my
You weren't
pants was
cool.
high. It might have been on Urkel status, at some points. Sometimes my clothes were, just they didn't fit in a cool way. When people were sagging, I couldn't sag, or if I tried, you know what I mean? They'd make fun of me, especially if they know your parents.
Mhm.
So they make
So
fun. Well, let me even say this. One time someone came to me with a paper bag, and they actually rubbed the paper bag on my head top, you know, and actually like to show how much grease was on my hair. So they were making fun of the grease that was on my head. And so stuff like that, man. Just growing up, it was a
So
challenge.
I know you play multiple instruments. Like you're definitely an amazing musician. Like you play. What was your first instrument when you played? What you played in school?
First instrument that I played in general was the bass guitar. Like I got my dad's bass and or my dad's guitar, acoustic guitar, and started plucking out bass notes on that acoustic guitar, and that was what led me to actually playing the bass guitar.
So were
Um,
you in the school band when you went to school? Like,
Well, initially, no, because that was one of the areas of rejection as well. I actually had teachers that told me I am not smart enough to play a musical instrument. And that was one of the most devastating things for me. In fact, most people that see me playing music right now, and how passionate I am about music, a lot of people don't know that part of the story.
mhm.
There was racism that was attached to it, where like there were microaggressive things that teachers said to me. But aside from that, like, again, because I didn't fit in the conventional education system, or like by measuring me up to what it meant to be like a good student or a good kid, quote unquote. um Someone like me, I just didn't fit. And so they literally told me, you're not smart enough to play a musical instrument. A teacher told me that. And I'll never forget standing outside the band room, in the public school I was attending at the time, and looking down the corridor. There was like a hallway, and then there was like a bend off to the side where the band was, right? Like, so they did it that way so kids wouldn't be distracted by people walking by. And I
Mhm.
remember just standing outside that door, looking in, wishing I wanted to play the saxophone, and I'll never forget just out there like, why can't I play? Later I have found language for it, but it just horrible rejection, and I
What
and
else? I mean, I know I obviously know your story a little bit, but didn't they also tell you that you can only be a track star runner?
yeah, like my teacher, my Mr. Heap, who was the
Man, you're
track.
calling them out, eh?
I'll blast him right now, guys. Put him out there, right? Mr.
Let's go
Heap.
there.
Right? I'll never forget, man. He told me, he was like, you will be nothing more than a truck driver and a track runner.
Wow.
And the issue is, there's obviously nothing wrong with being a track driver, or I mean, a track driver, a truck driver or a track
Mhm.
runner. But he was trying to limit me, and he was actually being microaggressive. Like I said, I didn't have language for it back then,
Mhm.
but now I understand the undertones and the things that he was doing to try and limit me. And so that was one of those ways as well. You're never going to be anything more than this or that. And that was a lot of that narrative. What was responsible for shaping my perspective of myself at that time, but then also as I continued to grow up.
So, what made you continue to get involved with music, even though they tried to redirect you not to do music? What was it that you kept moving forward? Because clearly you play multiple instruments. You're also a good singer. But what made you keep on going, even though people told you that you couldn't play?
Well, you're too kind, first of all. I give God praise for that. The
No.
thing was, I actually left that public school. I left in the fifth grade. My teacher actually abused me. I still have a welt on my back from that experience. And my parents realized at that point, with that whole experience and the shenanigans that happened around that, it's time for me to get out of that school.
Mm.
And so anyway, they ended up putting me in a private school. And while being in that school, there were two teachers that really gave me a chance, that started recognizing, like, hold up a second, like they were the ones that kind of gave me some hope and challenged me that, you know what, maybe you're not insane, maybe you're just
Mhm.
different, and let's try and channel that energy. Like maybe you are, I want to give you this chance. So Mrs. Oh man, her name is Don Kennedy. Don Kennedy. She was the first one to really like open an opportunity for me as a music teacher. And then there's another teacher named Mr. Hild, Donald Hill. And Mr. Hild, he was the one that, like, he put a bass guitar in my hand. I was playing the baritone horn. I played tuba in that band. He would introduce us to music that just made me lose my mind. Up to this day, I still hear like Spinning Wheel by Blood, Sweat, and Tears. What goes up must come down. There's this songs like that like I got introduced to, that really challenged me. And I started plucking away on the bass, along with my dad's acoustic guitar, and that was kind of how it started forming in me, right?
Listen, like I met you playing the bass in college, and that's what attracted me to was there's something about that neck thing and the bass thing that I just love. And I hear that people that play the baritone are good kissers. So, man, it's all working in your favor, working in your favor, all that experience. But I just can't imagine, do you think those experiences affected your psyche in moving forward? Because I know like you later on became a music writer, a producer, you've done a lot of recordings in the past. Like, I would think that those experiences would hinder you to moving forward to being an artist.
Yeah, so by God's grace, I really, and this is where I would start, sharing around, the Lord. I really feel His providence was a massive part of this, because it continued to go on. I had people in school. My nickname when I started playing and stuff, because was Doodoo Fingers. Like I had friends that called me Doodoo Fingers, because they're like, you're so trash on bass, you know what I mean? And so we're gonna call you Doodoo Fingers. And they literally, and later down the line, they said they did that to, push me to get better. Bullying is never good. Name calling is never good in that regard. But it really did push me.
Mm.
And I God used I believe the negativity of others to push me to really pursue this thing more. Because the thing is, there was the passion for music in my heart. Like, this is why the teachers used to be like, you're so bad behaved, because I was always drumming on the desk. You could ask my mom, even in dinner, I'm picking up the forks and the stuff, and I was that kid, forget, pots and pans. I was drumming on everything. And so I realized, like, it was in my heart. Like, I'm always hearing the music in my head. And when I realized I could start plucking it out, I just decided to channel that rejection and that energy and use it as fuel. Some of the greatest things in life, not to preach, even things that we eat, are grown out of stuff that's fertilized by manure,
Come
right?
on.
And so for me, it was like, I can either allow this to stop me, or I can allow this to fuel me and push me into to my purpose. So I literally just kept rehearsing, kept practicing, seizing every opportunity I got. Even in traditional churches, I've been in churches where I was playing and they plugged out the amplifier.
Wow.
So many
Wow.
discouraging things along the journey. But to me, again, I felt like, again, the passion in me, it was, if I can just borrow Jeremiah, it was like a fire, right? And
Hmm.
it just pushed me to keep going. And so eventually writing and all those various things as well.
And I know even planting a church and you've had some opposition and rejection with that. Like, how did that like affect you even starting a church? Also, I know you've done music, but it feels like a lot of times you had major, like you wrote a book, you've done projects, and you've also done churches. And every time you got to these big things that God put in your heart, you got like you had rejection each time. It was never an easy road. Like, how did you keep on going with those things?
I come to realize, man, like no matter where in the journey I would find myself with everything, there are always going to be people who showed up to try and challenge me. There are always going to be people who showed up to try and talk me off the wall, and even in starting to church plant, like when I first started, when I planted my first church, I was excited. God told me to do it. I had several supernatural accounts that took place to indicate that this is what I was supposed to do. And I'll never forget, somebody just showed up. And, well, first of all, and this is why I love you so much, babe, and I call you my ride or die for real. I'll never forget, like some guys came into my office. People are getting saved. Lives are being changed. Lives are being transformed. And you know what I mean? And some adults, some people who just, like the song says, parents just don't understand, who didn't really get it, came and showed up and were absolutely going off on us, trying to tell us why we need to stop and all of that. And you were sitting behind me on the desk in my office, just grilling them in their face and being there supporting. And that was life-changing for me, having support of people like you. But it was people like that really challenged me and continued to, challenge what I was doing. I'll never forget another guy that came, and literally every single thing I did, he would always come with a Bible verse. The worst is when people are rejecting you with scripture. Like,
yes,
he always come with the Bible verse, using it out of context now that I know, to tell me why I needed to stop this and do this and whatever. And so along the journey, it was always people doing that. But again, the passion in my heart said otherwise. The encounters and the experiences that I had with God, the supernatural things that took place, the people in my life who were affirming me. Isn't it crazy? Like they always say, you can have 100 people like, a post, and all it takes is that one person to show up and give you a thumb down, or that one person who, gives a crazy comment. Everybody could be like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is dope, or whatever. And then as soon as out of nowhere, one person, and that's the way it was with me. And I didn't realize it because I was giving more attention to the one or two people that were tripping, as opposed to, I got a wife and a girlfriend at the time who has my back. I got friends who are here and who are supporting and who are giving and who are participating in what's going on. But I'm still just focused, on the one hater or the one person that was tripping. Even with the music growing up, it was like teachers that are supporting me.
Wow.
Doors that are being opened, but I'm focusing on the doo-doo fingers, and all that sorts of stuff, right?
Wow. The power of people's voices really can affect somebody. The power, even though you can have 1,000 people saying, great job, it's that one negativity comment that can really be a distraction to a lot of people. And a lot of people don't understand how to quiet that voice and understand even the perspective of the person, why they're coming for. Maybe they have their own issues. Maybe they are jealous. Maybe they, are coming for you. But what about all the amazing people? And I know like you have impacted so many people's lives over the 17 years I've been with you. I know that you have so much fruit in the ground that people are being changed. And so I'm grateful that you continue to push forward, because I've been privileged to see you since you were, I know you since 9, but we got together when we were 20. And I've been very, very blessed to witness that every obstacle that you went through, you were able to push through and still do it. And I just want to change a little bit of gears and talking about, I know you obviously, but some of your mental health challenges in the past. Like, when did you recognize that you had some mental health challenges or barriers to in life?
Well, I realized, kind of a touch of ADHD as a child, and like getting tested because of the way, like I said, that I was learning, and also the way that I was processing things, but honestly, like growing up in an environment where you're always feeling like, for me, I always felt like I was under a microscope, like, and people were always kind of looking at me. And because of the rejection and the bullying, it got me to the place where where I, started focusing heavily on like what I was doing and being like meticulous about everything. And
Mm,
I started to notice certain rituals and things that were happening, like, and also there was like massive pressure to do things perfectly, right?
mhm,
And so, what would take people like 2 seconds in the bathroom would take me, like 10 minutes or whatever, because, I had to make sure that, and some of these things I didn't even realize until like, time was going by. But now just looking in retrospect, like, again, perfection, having to, wash my hands to like perfection, like even thinking about stuff like, if I knew that I locked the door, um,
mhm,
I feel like I'm gonna die, even though I knew I locked the door. I'm gonna
mhm,
die if I don't go and actually lock the door again. For a long time, I could not eat food
mhm,
without going and washing my hands and using the bathroom every
mhm.
single time. And obviously, you need to wash your hands, but
Yes.
if I didn't use the bathroom before I ate,
Mhm.
I would not be able to eat the food in peace. I'd be
Wow.
sitting there thinking in my head and feeling like if I don't get up right now from eating, if I did it without going and using the restroom, if I don't go use the restroom right now, I am going to die, And this food is a wash. Like the food, it could be the best food ever. If I don't go use the bathroom, it's over. And that's when I started noting like certain things. There were others other than me who, in my household, in my family, who had similar obsessive compulsive disorder, sort of traits. And this, now we have language for these things.
Mhm,
But I didn't realize those sorts of things. I didn't have verbiage for it, but now I'm realizing like I'm a little different.
mhm,
Passing by something, if I didn't see it properly, or if I
mhm,
feel like I missed it, like I would want to turn the whole car around, you know what I mean, to actually go
mhm.
and go back and see it again properly, stuff like that, so that, yeah.
So I know you in the last few years you started sharing more openly about those struggles. How has been the response been? Do people hold it over your head, or I've known that you in the last, I think, forever really, but you've been very authentic of who you are and sharing like your struggles. You've been open. We're both very raw people. Have people used that against you, or they've been more welcoming that your authenticity through your even rejection or your mental health challenges?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest healing things for me is like has been like being open and being authentic. And it sucks because oftentimes, again, like people are, and people again are cruel. Like I've had people where I've shared these things and they end up using it against me, especially if you say something like OCD. And the challenge is like, we live in a culture where people use certain terms
Mhm,
frivolously or in a joking sort of a manner, but and they don't really think about like people who actually battle these sorts of things. So they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, you're so OCD," or or they'll be like, "Oh man, I'm so OCD," because they like things cleaned or whatever, but they don't realize like there are actually people who this thing is like debilitating. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm,
they can't just carry out regular things in life without being haunted by this. So I've had people who have used that against me, like, yeah, man, the reason why, you're this way is because you're OCD, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. And it's like, that's one of the challenges to being authentic, because sometimes when people actually, say something like I'm seeing in the comments, like weaponize your struggle, it's a
yeah.
challenge. It's like, actually, that's actually not what's happening right now. But you feel when you're vulnerable and you put that out there, it's like, people sometimes use it against you, and sometimes they use it when it's actually not the thing.
It's true. It's true. And I think too, like one thing, even at our church or even our home, we're trying to create safe and brave spaces for people to be authentic. And it's very unfortunate when people are brave enough to say, you know what, I struggle with that. I'm going through that. And that instead of saying, hey, awesome that you are being honest or real, they're more like, we get that all the time. Like, even though you've dealt with OCD, you're in a place of victory. It's not as rough as it was years ago that you've been through, right? But
Yeah.
people will still look through you in that lens as currently that you're living in that, or currently your past experiences that you've been through. Can you speak on that? Like, do you feel like people sometimes continue to look through that lens?
Yeah, it's not fair. I mean, I think in general, like aside from the fact, I think it's unfair for people to characterize you as your struggle in just in general. Like, I am not my struggle, right? I
Yeah.
am not my mental health issue or whatever the case may be. And sometimes we hinder, we limit people based upon those things that they're real with. But I think, like, there are people who are victorious. There are people who have made mistakes, because I think even beyond mental health, like made mistakes in the past or whatever the case may be, and we still were unwilling to like let them outlive that. We're unwilling to let them like live in a new reality. We continue to bring up the past. We continue to bring up, and I've been guilty of that, as well. And I think that's unfair. Like, not everybody is still in the place that you knew them, before. And so I think it's important to, know people where they are, find out where their journey is, and not to characterize people based upon their, their struggle or what it is they're going through.
So is the people talking to you, are they always a hater, or are they just trying to give positive criticism onto things that you do? Like, is everyone a hater?
Well, no, I think that, and that's a very good question. We live in a generation where everyone is always calling everyone a hater, and if somebody disagrees with you, then they're considered as, a hater, right? And I don't think that's the case. I think there are haters, like I've shared. There are many people who are haters, and there are many people who don't want you to succeed and who thrive. Like, they don't have their own business because they're just focused on your business. They're entrepreneurs, they're starting businesses with your business, right?
Right.
And so the reality of haters is, it's absolutely true, right? But as far as is everyone a hater? Absolutely not. There are many times where there are people in my life who have actually contributed incredible things to me, criticisms that challenge me to grow, that challenge me to become a better person. And so I think it is actually true that that there are people who are for you. And I think we live in a culture that's so offended by everything that as soon as somebody, if my bread stinks, guy, tell me my bread stinks. See what I'm saying?
Can you handle it? Not everyone can handle being that direct. Do you think always in your journey that people can be very straight up with you and that you would able to receive it?
That's a good question, and I'll be real, because I've for years I was such a defensive person. I will say this before, in defense, no, let's see what I did there. No, but aside from even that, right? Like, I think that if people come to you, like, because you asked me, like, can everyone handle direct criticism like that? No, everyone can't handle direct criticism. And I think that is the issue. I think sometimes it's tact. It's a lack of tact, right? You have to know who you're talking to. You have to, if you have the permission to speak into their life, you need to learn their love language, their ability, the way that they're wired, so that you can communicate to them in a way that actually makes that will actually be effective in communication. Like we always say in marriage counseling, EC is key, right? Effective communication is key. So I think sometimes the reason why constructive criticism doesn't come across well is because people don't effectively share it, right? But I do think that a lot of times where there are people who share things in the right way, in a tactful manner, that a lot of times people just can't handle it. And for me, I was extremely defensive. One day I had a friend and he was just like, "You are so defensive. I can't say anything to you." And I was like, "No, I'm not." Being defensive about not being defensive. And when I left away from there, that conversation, I really thought to myself, I'm like, he has never been able to tell me anything. And I receive it without, no matter how he said it. And it's like, "Can you handle the truth?" Yeah, I see that in the comments. "You can't handle the truth," and it's just like, I couldn't handle it. I grew up in an environment where I was constantly fighting rejection, and consequently, And then also with the obsessive compulsive disorder type vibe, I wanted to be perfect. And if I felt like I wasn't perfect, then, you know what I mean? I was going to jump on anybody, right? That challenged me in that area.
And you've grown, you've definitely evolved over the years to recognize. And I think what the biggest growth and how you've grown, you are humble. Like I have to say, you've been humble enough to say, you know what, maybe I don't have it all together. Maybe there's areas of growth. You are also open to now, maybe not years over 10 years plus you weren't there, but I think you've grown, and that's a great place to be, that recognizing where you can grow. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, and just kind of going back to the mental health challenges, I think this is an important thing, losing a grasp of reality. Like when I was 15 or 16, I smoked what, would be called a seasoned spliff. There's a little something extra in there in the marijuana, as we believe now. It was laced, and, as we believe now. And I literally, out of that experience, lost my mind. And so, this is not is marijuana right or wrong conversation, but the idea was that I was disobeying my parents, first of all. And then I lost my mind. Like I was hallucinating heavily. I literally, all of the mental health issues that I had as a child were extremely magnified. So I couldn't drive in a car for more than 15 minutes without having a severe panic attack. My whole body would be shaking. I literally have to get out of the car and plant myself on the side of the road. I would be standing in public environments and I would feel like I disappeared. So this happened after the high wore off. And for I literally would be standing in environments and I would just feel like my whole body disappeared and was just a head just there, right? And so my thing is, when God delivered me, and see, a lot of people, you're saved, but you still have challenges, right? And when God delivered me and actually broke me out of that, where I lost the grasp of reality. I felt like I never, if you watch Get Out, I was in the sunken place. You know what I mean? I felt like I was always, got to illustrate.
Right.
But I felt like I was always sinking. So when I finally came back to reality and I was delivered, I felt like, you know what I mean? Like I just wanted to, I didn't want anybody to tell me something that might push me back into the sunken place. And so this was a major area for defense, and that was kind of birthed out of that. So that was kind of some background as to why I was so defensive as well. So when I got out of that as well, it was like, I didn't do this to myself, and God really humbled me. He it's who delivered me, It's him who gave me the skills despite what the people were saying. And so I had to start realizing, like, you know what, I got to be secure in him. He's going to keep me. He's going to push me where I need to be. And I don't need to be defensive. I just need to be open to correction and to learn by his grace.
Have you given people more grace since of your own personal experiences?
Yes, that's definitely a good question, because as you can imagine, along with the OCD type stuff and my defensiveness came me not being willing to extend grace to others. And so in many regards, I was not a graceful person. I was not someone that had mercy on others, because I was so hard on myself. I projected that on other people, and I had unrealistic expectations on other people, and that's how it is. Like sometimes self-projection is such a big thing. You see how people treat you. A lot of times when people treat you negatively, it's because of their own view of themselves. And I realized the way I dealt with people was because I had a low self-view. And so now, thank God for deliverance, I've been able to become more graceful and merciful to other people in response to me realizing how merciful and graceful God has been towards me.
Awesome. So how are you handling this pandemic? You are leading a thriving church that is growing through a pandemic. You have 3 beautiful children.
And a beautiful wife.
In the pandemic, you are not only that, you have, you play music. You've been in your Instagram, you've been getting in some more bass in the last few weeks. You study, you lead a team of people. like how has this pandemic been the last 15 months for you? Like, especially having a history of mental health challenges.
Oh man, I mean, it was absolutely insane. Like, especially in the initial phases. Well, in the initial phases, I'll actually say this. I was very, very optimistic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the guy at the front, like, let's go, you know, this is just gonna be quick and God is with us and let's join together and all this stuff. And, you know, and then it was kind of like not just that, but then the other pandemic hit, the racism deal, you know,
Mm.
and George Floyd and all of the various things that transpired. You know, in the pandemics, in the midst of the pandemic, and it got harder, you know, like, I mean, absolutely just kind of trying to wade through that. And then on top of that, people were pulling on, you know, yourself and myself to try and remedy and create solutions for something that like racism that we didn't create, right?
Right, right.
And so it was very difficult to rehash experiences like ones that I shared earlier, where we
Mhm.
experienced racism ourselves, or I did in my scholastic journey. And that really played on my mental health. And, you know, so for me, how, aside from the answers like prayer, which of course prayer
Mhm.
is at the substratum of it all, you know, it played an integral role in getting through, but also just being aware, like pausing to kind of do introspection, and also asking you to, you know, to sound the alarm, because obviously we're locked down, we're in the home nonstop, like Noah and the Ark type vibe going on here. And I just asked you, like, hey babe, just, you know, be honest with me, let me know if you see me going, you know, see me going off, like off the rails
Mhm.
here. If there's something that needs attention, like bring it to my attention. And
Mhm.
then I told you, you let me buy a road bike,
Oh
right? Like,
my word.
I know that was a big thing for you, you know,
Yes.
because we're saving for a house and we had, you know, we had our savings. And I was like, babe, I need to do something that gives me the opportunity to get out and stay distanced and all of that, but still have the activity that I, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to get into something that would
Mhm.
kind of give me that, let me let out the stress, go
Mhm.
far.
And
And
let's
that
talk
was a big help.
and let's talk about that because I'm definitely very strict with my money, our money, not my money, but our money. I'm very strict. And I remember when you asked me, like, hey, you know, I really think I want to get into biking. And I was like, how much is like it cost? I almost died because it was a lot of money. It wasn't just $100. It was a couple $1,000s to get into this. And I was like, I was upset because we had a goal to we're trying to save for a house and this is putting us back. I'm like, I don't know. And I remember going to the bike shop and it was hard for me. Like I was not enjoying the process when you were like, well, let's get cleats, let's get a helmet, let's get the shirt. I'm like, how much more money are we adding to this bill? Like I was not happy with this because I felt like we had a goal and we were working towards something. And I felt like, why would we spend all this money on a bike? But when I
Man,
recognized that this was going to help your mental health, that it was even good for your body, your brain, your health, I had to recognize I can't put a money on that. I can't, yeah, I'm trying to save our house, but I want my husband before I'm going to lose my husband before I get a house. I don't want to push you to be saving a couple $1,000s we can get back, but I can't get your mental health back.
yeah,
And that was very hard. And we had to talk that out. And I had to recognize that your health is a priority to our family and to our
yeah,
church. And I had to make sure that I recognize that even though I'm like a good budgeter, that wasn't important at that time,
yeah,
that summer. And that was very hard on me to deal with that. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I appreciate you because, you know, I would say people in your life have to be willing to, people in our lives have to be willing to invest, have to be able to decipher between things that are
Mhm.
just like, oh, you know, he just wants to splurge on a bike or whatever the case may be, versus, yo, this is actually something that will invest in him producing something, producing even more, like from a resource standpoint, even being productive to the place where I produce more than the resources that were spent on that piece of equipment. Like
True.
business wise, with the other things that I was doing on the side, outside of
Mhm.
ministry,
Mhm.
you know, I was able to generate income to replace what, you know, what came in with that, with the various things. But I wouldn't have been able to do those things if that investment was not made. It made me feel like you actually listened to me, which I'm so grateful for that. It helped my physical body, which contributes massively to my mental health, because sitting in the house, cooped up in the house, not able to go anywhere, you know, that was massive. So that investment really helped me and increased my productivity.
And I like when you would come home, you were honestly, it was a game changer. I have to say that was the moment that changed everything in our household. Your attitude, your attitude, but like you were excited to wake up in the morning to get on the bike. You're not a morning person. You would get up at 6:30 3 times a week to get on that bike. And that is like mind blowing because you don't like the mornings, but you were faithful to get up in the mornings to go on the bike, to go long distances, right? And so that was a big lesson for me to learn that, you know, make investments where it's important. And you would tell me like, we're still going to get the house, like relax on the money, relax on the budget. I'm like, and look, God was faithful. We got the house, you know, faster than we thought we were going to get it.
Come on.
And I think you were able to think better as well. And I know, are we going to add something?
No, I was going to say, and even with you letting me do that, you still had like, you know, it still was within reason. Like, it wasn't like, okay, we're investing in this bike, so, you know, we're going to get a $5,000 bike and bankrupt our whole life and everything.
And don't think you didn't try, no.
Yeah, I know, right? It was hilarious, but it was like, no, it was within reason. So yes, I'm going to get a good bike. Yes, there's going to be an investment that takes place, but it still is within the parameters of, you know, that are necessary. So like, I think that's a powerful thing as well. It doesn't mean hearing this doesn't mean like make an investment. Oh gosh, you're saving $50,000. Let's take out 20 and start doing, you know what I mean? No, I'm not talking about the extreme, but some of us are unwilling to invest anything. You know what I mean? And it's like, and as a result, what you were holding on to so tightly actually hindered you from even surpassing, right? The investment you could have made.
I know the show's not about me, but
it is about you.
You know, but out of that, I recognized that I had a scarcity mindset. Like I realized that out of that season, I realized I was hindering you because I had a scarcity mindset. I didn't want to spend money because I just felt like, you know, we can't get that money back. And I was willing to, my personality is I will squeeze up myself. I will, when we go for lunch, you're getting the nice drink, I'm getting water. And maybe if I'm like adventurous, I'm asking for a lemon, like to go on the water, right? Like that's how much I'm willing to sacrifice from when I have a goal in mind. And I recognize in that season, like, wow, like I'm struggling because I hold tight onto money and instead of investing in things that are very important.
Yeah. Well,
that I've missed out on a lot of things in life, like a lot of things in life because of the scarcity mindset.
Yeah, and you've grown. I mean, just like you said, I've grown in the area of defensiveness. You've grown in that. And it's been amazing to actually witness your journey as it pertains to that. You know, there was a time where, you know, if a bill was due, you weren't even going to buy some McDonald's fries. You know what I mean?
Oh, like, no. Like, no, listen, like when we first married, we did the budget, it goes to zero. I do zero budget. And you would say, hey, babe, you come home after a long day, can I get $1 McDonald's pie? And I'm like, it's not in the budget. Like I've already done the budget. We're not getting the dollar. Like that's how tight I was on you, like with the budget and money, because I had a plan. And I'm like, in retrospect, what's $1? To enjoy like on the backyard $1 pie, but that's how tight I was like with money. I'm like, I wouldn't even spend the $1 on a pie. Like that's how tight I was.
So it's a big deal for you to be willing to even do that. And I see someone saying in the comments that the scarcity mindset is prevalent in our culture, and it's absolutely true. You know, because you know, in many regards for myself, like I didn't grow up with having a lot, right? So for me, even though I wasn't in that sort of a place, it was always like check to check. It was always like, you know, we need to hold on to this thing so tight. And I find like, even if people grew up with stuff, sometimes just culturally, we're not accustomed to like, you know, thinking about going beyond. It's just kind of like, you know, I need to hold on to this because I'm going to lose everything if I just, you know what I mean?
That's it. Because I'm used to, like, I never felt that pressure with money. Like I grew up maybe there was issues, but my parents never made it an issue. Like money was very available to us and resources. But when I recognized when we were first married, there wasn't a lot of resources. That's when I really became like, whoa, like I need to pay these bills. Like, and
Yeah.
I felt the pressure to do that, even though you never put that on me, but I felt like I wanted to be a very big contributor to that. And I know also in the pandemic, you have been an amazing comedian with Gabri, that you're so funny, but you are not doing Gabri right now. Like you gave that, not that you gave it up, it's maybe on pause right now. Like you've grown your Gabri to like over 20,000 followers in less than 2 years. You were really consistent and you're not doing it anymore. Like what's up with that?
Yeah, Gabri was a journey. The Gabri comedy journey was a big one for me. I love my grandmother. My grandmother passed away. Actually, she was, and these are things that contributed massively to my mental health issues as well. Like she passed away, right before my birthday, and then they had her funeral on my birthday. She raised me. The reason why I'm like so steeped and imbued with Bajan culture is because of my grandmother and my mom, but largely my grandmother, right? So, kind of in a memorial to her, I always wanted to do some form of an ode to the things that like she instilled in me. The jokes, she was so witty. She was so, her punchlines were always on point. She could throw stuff and it goes around the corner and, and can hit you. Like, so she had like and if you're West Indian, you know what I'm talking about. Like, and so for me, I always wanted to find things that I couldn't necessarily laugh about as a child and put them, now that I can laugh about them, put them in there because there were principles and stuff that were behind it. And so like, it was crazy. People always would, even with that, when I was younger, every now and again, I would try to, do a Bajan accent. And, I had family members that'd be like, boy, you're trained and taught Bajan, and they would like make fun of me and stuff. Right. And be again, like, what do you call it? Perpetuating and getting that thing there where continuing it, where people were rejecting me. And so I hid from it. But then later down the line, as more people were like, yo, man, you can do this really good, right? I came to you and I was like, even though I felt rejected, and I was like, babe, like, I really feel like this is something that I should do. Like, do you think can I do it? Can I actually do this? Do you think people would actually be interested? And you were like, babe, just go for it. Just do it. Like people wonder why like we are the way that we are. It's like we support one another, and I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't, what I mean? If it wasn't for you and your support of me along the journey. And you were like, just do it. And so literally starting it, I started it. I did like one video and people were like going nuts. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe this is something I need to. And then 10,000 followers later.
Wow.
And then 20,000 followers later, requests to, interviews in like the West Indies on TV stations and stuff. And I'm like, man, this is insane, but you asked me, you're like, why do I not do it as much anymore? Like, honestly, it got to a place where just mental health wise in the season, it was like, you know what, there are other things that are priorities, because a part of keeping my mental health where it needs to be is not taking on too much or not doing things that get me helter skelter. Because of the OCD tendencies, I always want to do everything perfect. So if I can't, I can't take on more than by God's grace, that I can handle at the moment. So people are like, oh, we miss you. You put a video out there and literally I have videos with like hundreds of thousands of views on Instagram, on my comedy page, and people miss it. But I'm like, I got to take care of myself. Got to make sure my family's being fed and my time is there. I got to make sure the ministry, Serve City Church, is taken care of. That's a priority above making want to laugh, right? And making people laugh. And so I have to put it aside for a second.
And I want to say something like, even when something's going good, you might have to take a pause. Even when you were succeeding, you were doing very, very well. It was going to the next level. Even now, I know it hurts you to think about it sometimes, like how you actually enjoy it. Things were going well, and to know that you still have to take a pause to take care of what's first. You know?
That right there is a very difficult thing for me, but I know it's like this is where like the feelings have to go out the door, and again, you really check yourself and your priorities, because like you said, it's not only when things are going bad that you're
Mm-hmm.
not supposed to be doing them. And a lot of times we use the wrong markers. We have the wrong markers. Sometimes our marker, our success marker, or our decision making is based upon, is this going good or is this
Mm-hmm.
going bad? And it's like,
Yeah.
no, sometimes things could be going amazing. Like the Apostle Paul, I'm not to preach, but he says he was excelling in Judaism.
Yeah.
He was actually excelling in Judaism when the Lord knocks him off the horse and says, why are you persecuting me? I gotta go now, and you know what I mean, and you're gonna serve me and all this stuff and whatever. He was
Yeah.
excelling, and so for me, it was like 20,000 followers, almost 21,000 followers, and I realized at that point, I'm like, even though it's working, God says no, push pause. If I tell you to come back here, the same God that brought you to 20,000 followers, you still have the same talent, you still have the same ability, I'll bring you back to where you need to be. Don't be follower driven.
Wow.
Especially for someone like me that battles rejection, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like, the thought of losing followers, the thought of not being able to still have that, like audience even that I did. And God had to challenge me, like, I'm in control. That's the biggest battle or the biggest weapon against OCD as a Christian and battling mental health issues, because most people just feel like you're out of control. And it's like, yes, but trust me, I'm in control. And I have something better for you if you obey now than a bunch of followers, than a bunch of likes and thumbs ups and all of that,
And I don't think a lot of people recognize is because we got into COVID, because that we were not only that leading 3 kids in remote learning and other things on the side, we were also doing a lot of speaking engagements, that we chose our church and family more than fame and popularity. That's never been our goal, has never been the platform we want to use. And you always said, if it was taken away, I will let go of it. And we chose, or you have chose, to do ministry and serve God, serve your family over popularity and platform. And that's really what the heart of the decision that and we talked about it together. It was something that we discussed together. We prayed for, and we said, we'll let it go. And maybe the Lord will pick it back up again, but that's not our number one. Our church needs us. He needs the full capacity, us to be leading strong. Our children need us in this season when they're dealing with their own issues, and we need each other. And so I think people, it's so easy to go after the fame and, oh man, like go to the next market's 25,000 followers. Bro, you're doing so amazing. And it's like, yeah, that's not where the real deal is at.
Like God made it clear to us, aside from our family, that we had to pour into the church, and the church needed us. Not only my family, but the church needed their pastors. And like, for me, the investment, people needed hope on a massive level. Yes, they needed laughs, but the laughs that I'm giving are just going to last for this lifetime.
Wow.
The hope that's coming through in the local church context, I realized that, that's going to last into an eternity. And so for us, like, this is how we were able, by God's grace, we have literally prospered through the pandemic. The major markers, our church grew from just, over 100 people to literally over 300 people, plus through the pandemic. Literally now hundreds of people. The reach and all the various things that have happened, it's not numeric, but also has grown spiritually and in depth, discipleship wise. So many people are growing. We literally have lines of people right now to be baptized. This was around our meeting today, all through the pandemic.
Listen,
we were able to.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Go for it.
You're getting me riled up here. No, because I'm like one person to make the decision is better than 20,000 followers. And I can get emotional about thinking about it. One person saying yes to the Lord cannot compare to 20,000 followers on social media. It's not even worth it. It's not even worth it. We would do it for the one. We believe it. We run after the one because God would run after the one. And to us, that's the number one priority. Like, we don't care about social media. Like, yeah, we post things. Yeah, but most people don't even see what happens behind the social media. And I think it's so easy to get caught up in popular on those platforms. We're resharing stories, where, we do all these platforms, but our number one, more than other churches, other social media platforms, our church is our number one home that we want to be based. And it was a hard decision, but an easy decision at the same time.
Come on. Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's it. It's like perspective. Like you said, we do it for the one, and I'm thankful that it's more than the one, right?
Come on.
I'm thankful that it's more than the one, but we would do it for the one. And my thing is that for me, even with the comedy deal, it was just taking away the time that I needed to get to the one, let alone the hundreds.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
And it's like, so for me, that was where that had to be put aside. And like you said, not follower driven, we're disciple driven,
Come on.
It's not like, oh, how many likes and how many people are hitting. No, it's what about, and this is the thing, when you put the right things in perspective, when you put the right things in perspective, that's when the things that you're thinking about actually start to fall in place. You see what I'm saying? So the whole idea is like, when my perspective and my focus was in the right place, that's when the things that we were desirous of started to even show up and fall in place. So I think that's an important thing to remember. It's like, when you put first things first, when you put Christ first, when you do that, you know what I mean? God begins to set the things in order that you're even desirous of in your heart.
And I think something that was very powerful too, that you did Gabby for a while, and people didn't even know that you were in ministry. Like, you didn't really put that out there, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And when you made the shift, you even changed your name. You're no longer going to be under Gabby. You kind of said, hey guys, this is who I am. I might be a jokester, but I'm actually a preacher. I also do ministry. And people were what was the response? I won't answer for you.
Man, that's the thing. Like, even along the journey, it was a battle, because I realized, like, I couldn't be my, like, everything, all of who I am in that environment. And so it was a challenge to me, like, being in that environment. But it got to the place where I was like, you know what, man, I literally have tens of thousands of followers from all across the West Indies. I thought it was just going to be Bajan people that could identify. But then God opened the opportunity for literally people across in Jamaica and all these, and Guyana and all these various places. And so I realized, I'm like, man, I have this audience and this opportunity. I do church stuff in there. And I, church jokes about Caribbean church stuff and whatever. And I was kind of like, well, like, what if I actually seize this opportunity and these followers to share, like, who I am? Like, maybe it would be cool for them to see me still as a pastor, but as someone who's down to earth. And it was interesting, because there are actually people who are saved because of connecting, with me through the Gabry comedy. Even people who are there's even someone who is a key person in our church now, who is a part of our church, who learned of me through the comedy page. So it's not like a wash, but me being myself and actually coming out and saying, I'm a pastor and all this sorts of stuff, and talking about things. I've had people who are like, wow, I didn't even know that church people could be like this. I didn't know that church people, like, I posted a clip of you and I talking about therapy. They were like, I didn't even know that Christians talk about therapy. Right? And so stuff like that made me realize, like, you know what? I can actually be myself. And if God allows me to do jokes and stuff down the line some more, then I'll come back and I'll do it. But right now, priority wise, I need to be, Pastor G. Andrew Beresford. So, yeah.
I just want to say thank you for being honest and being real. A lot of people don't really talk about their mental health challenges and their journey. Like, you have a story of being rejected in the past, but God has redirected you to do many things. You are an amazing leader. You are an amazing father. You are an amazing musician. You are creative. You are a good encourager. You are a preaching machine. You are bad at it. You are like bad in the good way. You are amazing at teaching. You have a strong teaching gift. Not only that, you are generous. Like, you always keep money in the car to give to the homeless. Like, that's you, in both cars, you always make sure we have money in the car to give to homeless. Not only you are a man of your word, you don't just talk about it, you actually do it. You're an integral person. You're very integrous. And I just want to say thank you for being who you are. I thank you for being authentic. Thank you for giving up your success, your platform for God, because there's so many people that are more better for it, the impacts on people's lives. And I see the personal struggle. I've been blessed to get the private view before the public view, and you are consistent. And I'm so grateful that God has handpicked you for my life, for my story, my destiny, that the children, the life, the legacy that we're creating together. And it's an honor and a privilege to serve alongside you and to do life with you. And so I know I could have interviewed anybody else, but I know that people are going to be very impacted by your story and your realness and authenticity. And I hope people will recognize that pastors are real. They are humans with real issues, but God can still use them with great talent for the nations and for the globe. And so thank you for being who you are. I love you with everything that I got. We're hitting almost 20 years of being together. The year we turn 40, it's a 2040 year. We're going to celebrate big. And I just want to say, even from the beginning, is, I had this dream in my heart to do the show. It's not like all glamorous put together, but you're saying you were my number one cheerleader. Like, let's do this. You can do it, babe. I believe in you. You've been alongside me through this. And I want to say thank you for, investing your time and resources in what God has put in my heart. And so thank you for being my guest today at Let's Go There. And so I appreciate you so much. And if you haven't already subscribed, if you haven't liked, please subscribe and like and share to people. And next week, I have a good one, a good interview that's going to come in next week. Don't want to miss it. Follow my Instagram at Chantal Beresford to see who will be my next guest next week. She's a good friend from back years ago that is doing amazing things, that has an amazing life experience that we're going to have a great conversation. So thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. live at Let's Go There.